G'day there guys, Farmville was the top game of my generation and I won't be told otherwise. It's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmITheA. Now if you loved Farmville, if you didn't love Farmville, smack that like button because it helps the video, thank you. Sit back, relax, chuck a prawn of the Barbie and get ready for another good video. Thank you. Posted by user RegC7929. Titled, Am I the a-hole for choosing my dog over my mum and her fiance? So my dad died in a work accident when I was 15, and I'm now 17 male. Last year, my mum started going out with Anthony, and they just got engaged. Anthony wanted to move in, but the problem is, he's severely allergic to dogs. My mum told me we had to get rid of Dax, my dog. Like, not even as a question, just straight up said that's what we're gonna do. I fought with my mom over this because he's my family, and he's what's helped me get through losing my dad. Dax was my dad's dog that he rescued from a shelter when he was still a puppy, and we had him since I was 11, so he means a lot to me. But my mom was like, nope, he has to go. We fought so much about it that I actually cried. Nobody wanted to adopt Dax though, and I had to beg my grandpa from my dad's side to take him, or else my mum was going to take him to a shelter. The problem was, my grandpa lives an hour away, and he can't do much physical stuff like take him out for walks, feed him, take him to the vet, etc. And there's no one around to help him take care of a dog. My grandpa suggested I could move here with him since all my classes are on Zoom, and I'm graduating in June anyways. I told my mum I want to move in with my grandpa so I can be with Dax. She got really mad about that, and she says they, as in her and Anthony, are my family, and I need to be with them. But I told her that 1, Anthony's not my family. I have my own problems with him because he's kept talking about being my new dad, and I don't like that crap. But he doesn't listen when I tell him to stop saying he's my new dad, because he's not. And 2, Dax is my family, and she made me get rid of him just like that. My grandpa's my family too, anyways. Last week I got my stuff and my uncle helped me move to my grandpa's house. My mum's still been mad. She's not going to force me to come back, but she's still saying that I'm being a really crappy son, that I'm choosing to be with my dog instead of with them. But it hurt too much being without him. He was taken to my grandpa's a week before I left, and all that time I was up crying, missing him. And I know he missed me too because he lost it when I got there. My mum keeps telling me to come back and stop being cruel with her, but I'm happy here with my dog. I get she's got someone new to be happy with, and that's cool, it's her life, but why can't I be happy too with my dog living with me? Does it make me an a-hole that I basically did choose Dax over her? In all honesty, fair enough you'd choose your dog over your mum and her partner. You're 17 and they kicked your dog out of the house. They want to have their cake and eat it too, which only screws you and the dog over. You're old enough and have enough of a support network to make your own choices willingly and freely now, so I support this decision. I vote not the a-hole. What you did wasn't an a-hole move. It was a response to their a-hole move, so you're in the clear. Now in the comments, the chosen Juan says, "You're absolutely not a crappy son. What your mum is doing is horrible. She's trying to force a new family on you without your consent. Stay with your grandpa and keep the dog. Hope things look up for you in the future. I can tell Dax is a good boy, not the a-hole." It's the forcing a new dad on him that really gets to me. OP was 15 when he lost his father, and it's only been 2 years. He's still grieving, and most likely will for the rest of his life. That is beyond crappy. OP not the a-hole, I'm sorry for your loss, and go live your best life with Dax. OP's 17. He doesn't need a new dad. He might need a father figure, but that doesn't necessarily need to be his mother's fiance. At this stage in life, his male role model should probably be a teacher, counselor, friend's parent, even his grandfather, someone that can show him what it means to be a man. His mother's fiance hasn't taught him how to be a man. He isn't an example of a good man. Hell, Seems like his only qualification to be OP's father figure is climbing on top of his mother 18 years too late. Exactly. OP does not need a new dad. Pushing that is so reprehensible and lacks compassion and empathy. Like you said, OP is nearly 18. He gets to choose the mentors in his life. His dad is irreplaceable and will already be a loss felt for the rest of his life, yet Mum continues to put salt on the wound and then play the victim. Posted by user IndividualInside23. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not allowing my daughter to get a makeover at a birthday party? So this happened last year. Because of actions my parents did when I was a kid, I do not allow my daughter, Maisie, female 5, to play with makeup. When I was a kid, my parents screwed up my self-confidence and self-worth by convincing me the only way I'd ever find love or success was if I was pretty. At 8, my mum started perming my hair. By 13, I was getting highlights. By 14, she was having my brows waxed. At 16, she convinced me I needed a nose job or the boys would never like me. Around 15, she was reminding me to wear lipstick and something pretty in case any boys saw me. For years, I defined my own worth based on whether or not I was pretty. It took years to repair that damage, and I swore I'd never do that to my kids. Now, Maisie's classmate Anna had her 5th birthday party, and Maisie was invited. The party was dance club themed, but there were also activity stations set up as well, like build your own cupcake, make your own crayons, make your own clay sculpture, finger painting, etc., and one of the stations was profession party makeup. Anna's parents had hired 3 professional stylists to give the girls fun makeovers and do things to their hair like temporary color dye and clip-in extensions for curls and such. My Maisie, while enjoying toys and clothes from both sections of the store, is mostly a girly girl, and she's always been curious about makeup. She sees those kid-friendly sets at the store, or is sometimes gifted them by relatives, and she wants to play with them, but I don't allow it. When Maisie is a teenager, she and I will discuss makeup and how to use it properly. And when I believe she's mature enough to wear it and not let her beauty define her, I will let her wear it. And once she's 18, she can do whatever she wants. The stylists required parental consent before doing anything, so Maisie came and asked me if she could have her makeup done and her hair fixed. I said no and explained why. Maisie took it well, and in a moment her favorite song came on and her friends took her away to dance, and eventually the matter was forgotten. Maisie enjoyed the party, and we went home happy. But, through the other parents, word got around that I refused to let Maisie get her makeup done, and now the other parents are calling me some crazy helicopter mum who's trying to control her kids. Apparently, they think that it was an a-hole move to make Maisie go without a makeover when most of the other girls, as it was an all-girl party, had their makeup done. Now it's gotten back to my husband, and he said he agrees that Maisie doesn't need makeup every day, but surely I could have let her wear it at the party and washed it off when the party ended. We didn't fight, but he told me that if he'd been there, he'd have thought that I was being controlling too. Was I an a-hole for not letting Maisie get her makeup done? Not to be minimizing your trauma or anything you experienced as a child that you continue to hold on to today, but you definitely are projecting that trauma onto your child, and while you're not shaming her for wanting to wear makeup, you are holding her back from a societal and cultural norm. She's not old enough to comprehend why you're holding her back, but she is old enough to hold feelings of jealousy and envy of others that get these things, but for some reason she doesn't. I would say that's really unfair that you would entirely stop her from participating in these activities instead of just regulating it and going about it in a healthy manner. You're doing more harm than good the way you've approached it. And not to say that I think you're a bad person at all, but morally, I believe what you're doing here is not something I agree with. So my vote is you're the a-hole. Now in the comments, I'm a Moose says, this is a hard one to judge because you're the parent and you know what's best for your child. However, I do think you're the a-hole very lightly. It's a one-time thing where she can go have fun doing all the things at a party. You can tell her that makeup is just for fun and that she absolutely does not need it to look or feel pretty. Just because someone's a parent doesn't mean they know best for their child. There are plenty of terrible parents out there refusing to vaccinate their kids because they think they know better than the doctors. You don't even need to look that far. If OP's parents had known what was best for their kid, then she wouldn't be in this situation. If OP knew what was best, she wouldn't let her own hang-ups get in the way of raising her child. Self-reflection and personal responsibility are necessary skills in life. But in the same vein, we can only really define what is good based on our life experiences. Very soft you're the a-hole for this, OP, but at the same time, it's understandable, and as you seem to be able to self-reflect, I'm sure this is not irrevocable. You're the a-hole, but honestly, a lot of it is because of your residual trauma. A single case of a makeover will not impact your child the same way you were, especially if you reinforce it with support and guidance as she grows up. Instead, now you're harming her in another way. You are a loving and supportive parent, so don't allow your trauma to become hereditary. And OP replies, please elaborate for me. I need to know exactly how this is harmful so I can stop it. Hurting her has never been my goal. Remember what your parents did to you by forcing their beliefs on you and how it harmed you? You're doing the same thing to your daughter, and you will possibly leave her with trauma of her own. This, OP, read this comment if you do nothing else. This is how you're harming her. There's a wide distance between playing with makeup at a birthday party and what your parents did to you. A wide distance. You can let her play with hair and makeup at a birthday party if she wants to, as a special occasion. When she leaves the party, you can talk more about the fun she had with her friends, the good cake they had, the music they listened to, rather than the makeup she got to play with and how beautiful she looks. You're still a few years away from this, but if you keep clamping down on this as she ages, you're just going to make hair and makeup more and more tempting to her. When I was about her age, I'd spend the night at my friend's house who had a caboodle. I'm dating myself, I know, full of fun makeup her mum had deemed acceptable to play with. We knew we weren't to wear it out of our house, but had fun giving each other makeovers and playing around with all of it. As adults, she almost never wears makeup, and I wear it on days that I leave the house, but very sparingly. Some under-eye concealer, light eyeliner, mascara, and a blue-tinted lip balm. My mum was very anti-makeup, and also didn't let me weigh myself. When I was finally allowed to wear it, I immediately developed a dependency because I'd idolized it for so long. I didn't leave the house without it for years, and am finally at a point where I've learned to be okay with myself on my own terms. As for the weight bit, it backfired because I again became obsessed and developed an eating disorder. I also bought my own scale when I got a job. Basically, if you tell children a flat-out no without a really good comprehensive reason, they will do everything they can to push it. There's a reason abstinence-only sex education is so ineffective. It's much healthier to teach children to regulate themselves than it is to deal with the consequences of them never having learned how. And back to the post, OP puts in an edit and says, I've gotten really good answers here, and also a good dose of humility and bluntness. I realize now that I'm unhealthily projecting my own trauma on Maisie, and I have some work to do on myself. So I will be making a phone call to my therapist and getting back into that. And I've just placed an order on Amazon for a makeup set for little kids. When it gets here, Maisie and I, and Daddy if he wants to join in, will spend an evening with the TV off, phones off, learning about makeup, and also how beauty can make us feel powerful and confident. Our next post is by user CatBeamer, titled, Am I the a-hole for getting a 15-year-old kid and his dad arrested on felony charges? Early February, my bike was stolen from a cafe in broad daylight. A friend told me they found my bike listed on Marketplace, and sure enough, there it was. They'd stripped the stickers, saddlebags, lights, and basically anything that was easy to remove and identifiable, but I could still tell that it was mine. I messaged them asking if they still have it, and they say yes. We agree to meet up at a truck stop with a friend who tipped me off about the listing to look at the bike. I ask her about it, and she has no idea about anything about the bike, claiming she's selling it for her son. After a few minutes of stringing her along and pretending to inspect the bike, I say, "Oh, yes, this is the bike that your son stole from the restaurant. I'll be taking it back now." She screams that we're robbing her, tries to create a scene, and then my friend calls the cops for real. Cops arrive, questions both parties, but she avoids responsibility by feigning ignorance, although the son is arrested for grand larceny. 2 days later, the kid's father calls me. My number was listed publicly on my Facebook, and tries to talk me into dropping the charges, or because this would ruin his life and his kids make mistakes. I tell him that the situation is no longer in my control, which is a lie, and then they try to convince me to put in a good word for his son in hopes for leniency. I shut him down immediately, and he proceeds to get angry, yells at me for a bit, and threatens me if I don't do as he asks, oblivious to the fact that the conversation is being recorded. I turn the recording over to the police, and the dad is arrested for intimidating a witness. The next day, the mother calls me from a blocked number and tries to talk to me, but as soon as she identifies herself, I tell her to F off and not to call me again, or I'll be reporting her to the police as well, and she hangs up. She then contacts my wife via Facebook, sending a massive wall of text claiming that I'd ruined her son's life over nothing, and how her and her children were going to be out on the street because they relied on their husband's income. My wife is now upset and thinks that I took the situation too far, as do most people I've told about this, but I disagree. I don't think my actions were unreasonable. This isn't a little kid making a mistake because they don't know the difference between right and wrong. This is a teenager that stole something because he's a little idiot, and a family that not only didn't make the kid do the right thing, but willfully participated in concealing and trying to profit off of their child's criminal behavior. They are crappy people, and I don't feel any remorse for giving crappy people what they deserve. Yeah, and that's completely understandable. This kind of reads like a typical entitled parents post, unfortunately, and I'm inclined to believe this never actually happened because of that, but regardless, you did the right thing to protect your assets and your family. Those people are obviously morally bankrupt and are a danger to you, and you're doing what you can within the law to protect yourself. Fairly easy judgment, not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Polyester Atrocity says, "Not the a-hole. A crime was committed and you reported it." Also, the kid is a juvenile. This can be expunged with good behavior when he's an adult in most places. And the supposedly adult dad needs to learn that intimidating a witness is in fact a crime, not the a-hole. As does mum. WTF? Putting your witness intimidation in writing when your own conversation already busted your son and your husband's conversation got him arrested? At this point, she deserves to be arrested for being bad at thievery. OP, you're not the a-hole. Make sure a screenshot of that message gets to the prosecutor. Yeah, it seems like there's a disconnect here with the bike stealing family and how laws work. OP can't dictate how the state enforces laws or what laws exist outside of voting. If anyone thinks the punishment is too harsh, then they should vote to make penalties for thieves more lenient. Otherwise, they should shut the hell up. Totally not the a-hole. Nope, it is a family of thieves. Mum was participating, dad was participating, screw them, not the a-hole. I don't even need to read this. Unless you're a shady cop that falsely arrested innocent people, or the DA that falsely charged them, you are never the a-hole for reporting a real crime. Not the a-hole. Edit, to all the people throwing out all kinds of hypotheticals in response to this, I did actually read the post. I'm sick of Am I the a-hole posts where someone is the victim of an actual crime, for example having their bike stolen like OP, and then asking if they're the a-hole for reporting it. Of course they're not the a-hole for reporting that someone stole their property and then threatened them about it. But you absolutely can be the a-hole for that if you know that the result for the other person will be disproportionate and unjust, which is all too often the reality. You would be the a-hole if you reported someone for being gay where it's illegal. You would be the a-hole if you reported someone for possessing pot where it's illegal. And those examples are just some of the simpler examples. Yes, legality and morality are distinct and different, and to imply they're not is to reveal that the cultural system in which you primarily participate is set up in your favor. And our next post is by user Accident Throwaway, titled, "Am I the a-hole for not immediately rushing to my partner's daughter after she was hit by a car?" So I, female 34, have been with my partner Jeff, male 36, for around 6 years. I have 2 daughters, Meg 10, Charlie 8, and Jeff also has 2 daughters, Alice 12, Sarah 9. We have 2 sons together, Jack 4, Lucas 2. About 6 months ago, Alice was hit by a car and badly injured. Jeff was at work and my sister had dropped her 5-year-old and 3-year-olds off with me to play with my boys. Alice and Meg had taken their scooters to the local shop to buy some sweets. We live in a pretty safe town, and I'm happy to let the girls go to the shops and ride their scooters or bikes around as long as one of the older girls is with them. Meg came dashing home, crying that Alice had been hit by a car and was badly hurt. Meg was hysterical, and it was really hard to get any clear information from her. But she was able to tell me eventually that it was about a 10-minute scooter ride away and that a lady was with Alice and had called an ambulance. I tried to run to my neighbor to see if she could look after the younger kids while I went back out with Meg, but she wasn't home. My car doesn't have space for all the kids or enough car seats for my nephews as well as my sons. I rang Jeff and his brother, who lives local, a few times, as well as Alice's mum and my sister, and couldn't get through to anyone. I didn't want to take all of the kids with me by foot, as it would take too long to get them there, and I also didn't want them to see Alice hurt, but I couldn't leave them home alone. Eventually, I got hold of a friend who promised to be there in 5 minutes to mind the kids. By the time I got to the accident site, the ambulance had already taken Alice away. She broke her leg badly and had a concussion, but is otherwise on the mend. She was really upset to be left with a stranger at the accident site and has had nightmares about it. Jeff was also really upset but understood that I couldn't get there. However, a few of Alice's mum's family have been angry at me, saying that I would have gotten there faster if it was Meg. I can't deny that I probably would have been a lot more upset and panicked if it was Meg, but equally, I tried everything I could think of to get there but not leave the other kids in danger. Am I the a-hole? Should I have left the kids in the house with Meg, or found some way to get all of them down to the accident site with me? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I left a child upset and injured by the road with no family, and I feel horrible about that. I don't know if I tried hard enough to get to her, and whether there's an element of truth that I would have tried harder if it was one of my biological kids. This strikes me as a really complicated moral judgment kind of question, much like that little problem of trying to get the wolf, goat, and cabbage over a river, except we throw just in a bunch more variables and you're like, solve it in 2 seconds. It really sucks that no one else could be there in the moment to go look after the kids. But at the end of the day, it took you too long to solve that puzzle you were in, and the injured child has ended up more damaged because of it. The fact you continue to admit that you would have done more had it been one of your own biological kids just digs your grave deeper. You admit you would have tried harder in the heat of the moment to make something work. That shouldn't be a factor here. That kid is still under your care and is reliant on you. It's understandable in some sense, but it's just unacceptable, plain and simple. You just can't do that. Unfortunately, I have to go with you're the a-hole for this one. You didn't do the right thing soon enough and weren't prepared for this kind of emergency. Now in the comments, RB1327 says, "You're the a-hole for some all-round parenting issues that culminated in this situation. Neither the 12 or 10-year-old have a phone, but you're letting them go around town? You think one of the older girls is okay to be in charge for that, but not to watch the 4 toddlers at home. Or she could watch 2 toddlers and you take the other 2 with you. You were babysitting extra kids without the ability to drive them anywhere in an emergency? You reached out to 4 people and none of them even answered a text or call. Not even the mum whose kids you were babysitting? Why didn't your daughter or the woman who called 911 also call you instead of having the kids scooter 10 minutes home to you? How throwback are all of you when it comes to phones? And you admit that you would have handled this differently if it were your biological kid. For someone with this many kids, and extras you apparently babysit, you seem woefully unprepared physically and emotionally for the type of emergencies that could arise. The oldest, 12, would have been an okay age to look after the toddlers, or at least half of them, had she not been the one hit by the car. 10 years old, the one who came home, is not an age to leave at home looking after toddlers by themselves. Right? I think people are forgetting that there was a 2, 3, 4, and a 5-year-old there. No 10-year-old would be able to manage that by themselves. OP could have taken the littles with her and left the 8, 9, 10 at home. It blows my mind that there are all these kids and no emergency plan. People don't always think clearly when they're panicked and in shock, even if they have an emergency plan in place. But even if she had taken the toddlers with her, by the time she would have been able to load them all in the car, I'm assuming they would have had to be placed into car seats, she still wouldn't have been able to get to Alice before the ambulance took her away to the hospital. I guess she'll never know. This is the point of an emergency plan. It's laid out prior to the moment the crap hits the fan. OP was overwhelmed with a gaggle of humans and literally cannot properly care for that many at once by herself. That's the thing though. When crap does hit the fan, you have no idea how you will react, even with a plan in place. Sometimes, panic makes your brain shut off. This is why training for soldiers and emergency responders is so very intense, so you can learn how to think clearly and stay level-headed in extremely stressful situations. But regular people are not used to handling emergencies every day, and they will not handle them perfectly. They just won't. OP found the best possible solution in this impossible situation. There was nothing more she could have done. As a father of step and biological children, seeing you admit elsewhere in the comments that you love your other kids more and you would have found a solution for your bio kid really upset me. Offhand solution? The 8 or 9-year-olds can sit with the toddlers latched in a playpen while you frickin' sprint to the child hit by a car. Children have no sense of time or distance. That 5 minutes was probably more like 2 minutes. She could have died with only a stranger to comfort her. Her sister came fast as she could to get help and watched you do nothing. You're the a-hole. Edit. Lots of folks saying the older kids couldn't possibly handle the younger. I disagree fully, especially in emergencies. But everyone, including me, seems to be forgetting a key point. She had a car. She simply couldn't fit 5 kids in to get to the 6th. Putting aside the fact that, why do you only have a vehicle that you can't fit the family in, as there may be financial reasons, why the hell not put the youngest kids in the car and leave the eldest home? The point is, there were multiple ways to solve this problem, and OP pursued none of them, while clearly admitting that she would have done so for her real kids because she loves them more. Honestly. And OP leaves an edit in the post and says, "Thank you for your honest judgment. A lot of you are saying what I feel. I honestly don't know what I would have done if it had been Meg that was hurt. The guilt is eating me up inside that I would have somehow found a solution for her, but I just can't think of what that solution would have been. The thought that I would have somehow found one if it had been Meg is hard to live with. I'm going to speak with Jeff tonight and show him this post. I do love Alice and Sarah, but I just can't help that I love my biological kids more. I don't know what's wrong with me. We only have the girls 1 weekend a month and in the holidays, but that isn't an excuse. I do love them, but you're all right. They deserve more." Alright guys, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you need a good laugh, please do check out my second channel, Markee 2, links down in the description below, or it's going to appear somewhere on the screen here at the end, little bubble with my face on it. As always, a big shout out to my Patreon and channel members. Your faces are surrounding me right now, and I love to have you guys with me, and down in the comment sections of each and every video, and just knowing that you're always there to support me. It's a humbling and lovely feeling. And rest assured, I do see you, and I do notice your support, and I thank you every day for being here and helping me along this journey. Not much else to say besides that, guys. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I do hope that you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I will see you in the next video, and thank you again. Bye.